So, you think you know every US president? Name the 46th president. His term was from 2021 until now. He represents the Democratic Party, and his initials are JB. He is Joe Biden, the 45th president. His term was from 2017 to 2021. He represented the Republican Party, and his initials are DT. He is Donald Trump, the 44th president. His term was from 2009 to 2017. He represented the Democratic Party, and his initials are BO. He is Barack Obama, the 43rd president. His term was from 2001 to 2009. He represented the Republican Party, and his initials are GWB. He is George W. Bush, the 42nd president. His term was from 1993 to 2001. He represented the Democratic Party, and his initials are BC. He is Bill Clinton, the 41st president. His term was from 1989 to 1993. He represented the Republican Party, and his initials are GHWB. He is George H.W. Bush, the 40th president. His term was from 1981 to 1989. He represented the Republican Party, and his initials are RR. He is Ronald Reagan, the 39th president. His term was from 1977 to 1981. He represented the Democratic Party, and his initials are JC. He is Jimmy Carter, the 38th president. His term was from 1974 to 1977. He represented the Republican Party, and his initials are GF. He is Gerald Ford, the 37th president. His term was from 1969 to 1974. He represented the Republican Party, and his initials are RN. He is Richard Nixon, the 36th president. His term was from 1963 to 1969. He represented the Democratic Party, and his initials are LBJ. He is Lyndon B. Johnson, the 35th president. His term was from 1961 to 1963. He represented the Democratic Party, and his initials are JFK. He is John F. Kennedy, the 34th president. His term was from 1953 to 1961. He represented the Republican Party, and his initials are DDE. He is Dwight D. Eisenhower, the 33rd president. His term was from 1945 to 1953. He represented the Democratic Party, and his initials are HST. He is Harry S. Truman, the 32nd president. His term was from 1933 to 1945. He represented the Democratic Party, and his initials are FDR. He is Franklin D. Roosevelt, the 31st president. His term was from 1929 to 1933. He represented the Republican Party, and his initials are HH. He is Herbert Hoover, the 30th President. His term was from 1923 to 1929. He represented the Republican Party, and his initials are CC. He is Calvin Coolidge, the 29th President. His term was from 1921 to 1923. He represented the Republican Party, and his initials are WGH. He is Warren G. Harding, the 28th President. His term was from 1913 to 1921. He represented the Democratic Party, and his initials are WW. He is Woodrow Wilson, the 27th President. His term was from 1909 to 1913. He represented the Republican Party, and his initials are WHT. He is William Howard Taft, the 26th President. His term was from 1901 to 1909. He represented the Republican Party, and his initials are TR. He is Theodore Roosevelt, the 25th President. His term was from 1897 to 1901. He represented the Republican Party, and his initials are WM. He is William McKinley, the 22nd and 24th President. His term was from 1885 to 1889 and 1893 to 1897. He represented the Democratic Party, and his initials are GC. He is Grover Cleveland, the 23rd President. His term was from 1889 to 1893. He represented the Republican Party, and his initials are BH. He is Benjamin Harrison, the 21st President. His term was from 1881 to 1885. He represented the Republican Party, and his initials are CAA. He is Chester A. Arthur, the 20th President. His term was in 1881. He represented the Republican Party, and his initials are JAG. He is James A. Garfield, the 19th President. His term was from 1877 to 1881. He represented the Republican Party, and his initials are RBH. He is Rutherford B. Hayes, the 18th President. His term was from 1869 to 1877. He represented the Republican Party, and his initials are USG. He is Ulysses S. Grant, the 17th President. His term was from 1865 to 1869. He represented the National Union and Democratic parties, and his initials are AJ. He is Andrew Johnson, the 16th President. His term was from 1861 to 1865. He represented the Republican and National Union parties, and his initials are AL. He is Abraham Lincoln, the 15th President. His term was from 1857 to 1861. He represented the Democratic Party, and his initials are JB. He is James Buchanan, the 14th President. His term was from 1853 to 1857. He represented the Democratic Party, and his initials are FP. He is Franklin Pierce, the 13th President. His term was from 1850 to 1853. He represented the Whig Party, and his initials are MF. He is Millard Fillmore, the 12th President. His term was from 1849 to 1850. He represented the Whig Party, and his initials are ZT. He is Zachary Taylor, the 11th President. His term was from 1845 to 1849. He represented the Democratic Party, and his initials are JKP. He is James K. Polk, the 10th President. His term was from 1841 to 1845. He represented the Whig Party, and his initials are JT. He is John Tyler, the 9th President. His term was in 1841. He represented the Whig Party, and his initials are WHH. He is William Henry Harrison, the 8th President. His term was from 1837 to 1841. He represented the Democratic Party, and his initials are MVB. He is Martin Van Buren, the 7th President. His term was from 1829 to 1837. He represented the Democratic Party, and his initials are AJ. He is Andrew Jackson, the 6th President. His term was from 1825 to 1829. He represented the Democratic Republican and National Republican parties, and his initials are JQA. He is John Quincy Adams, the 5th President. His term was from 1817 to 1825. He represented the Democratic Republican Party, and his initials are JM. He is James Monroe, the 4th President. His term was from 1809 to 1817. He represented the Democratic Republican Party, and his initials are JM. He is James Madison, the 3rd President. His term was from 1801 to 1809. He represented the Democratic Republican Party, and his initials are TJ. He is Thomas Jefferson, the 2nd President. His term was from 1797 to 1801. He represented the Federalist Party, and his initials are JA. He is John Adams, and the 1st President. His term was from 1789 to 1797. He represented no party, and his initials are GW. He is George Washington. If you would like to watch more, today's trivia is on the left and yesterday's video is on the right. Thanks for watching So You Think You Know.